morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio right here on Market Street in Corning. Everything's looking good this morning. On the program, we're going to be talking to Mikella Christensen. She's with the Waterfront Festival happening this weekend, and of course the famous or infamous Cardboard Boat Regatta. The events start at 11 on Saturday, run till 8 p.m., and the Cardboard Boat Regatta itself is at 2 p.m. That's when it kicks off. We'll be broadcasting on Big Fox delayed, so we'll have a great program for you after, so you get to see all the fun. But I would highly recommend attending, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. We have a lot to discuss this morning in regards to former President Trump. Of course, we've got some New York State issues. We also have, if you weren't aware, Chris Christie held a town hall on CNN last night. Now, normally I'd be critical because Chris Christie polling at about 1%. It seems like the media give him a lot more attention than a candidate that's at 1%, getting more attention than, let's say, a Nikki Haley, someone like that, Larry Elder. But in their defense, CNN has had a town hall with Nikki Haley. So we're going to talk about that and much, much more. Let's start out with clearing up some confusion about what's going to happen with the former president, Donald Trump, today. A magistrate judge will be presiding over the Miami federal court hearing today. This is going to happen this afternoon. I'm sure you'll see plenty of coverage of it. That's when the former president will make his first appearance on charges of keeping classified documents. You know all of that, obstructing government efforts to reclaim them. I think 37 charges, right? Well, originally it was thought that it was going to be U.S. District Judge Aileen Cannon. Now, she was appointed by Trump. A lot of people in the media are saying that she should, I guess for lack of a better term, recuse herself, should not be the judge. I think that's tricky to say, because how do you say that that's okay, but then you have maybe a more liberal judge overseeing it, and that's okay? So not okay one way. I mean, that's neither here nor there. I don't want to get into that too much. But the magistrate judge, Jonathan Goodman, will actually be presiding over today's arraignment. The U.S. District Judge Aileen Cannon, who was randomly assigned, remember that, randomly assigned to Trump's case, will be handling further down the line. She will remain on the historic case as the lead judge, but today, just to clear that up, Magistrate Judge Jonathan Goodman will be overseeing that. So there will be a lot of coverage. Got two waves right there. If you're new to the program, we have a little wave counter at the bottom. So if you're on Market Street, stop by, wave. So we're going to talk even more about this, but not for too long. There's going to be wall-to-wall coverage. But the journalists have been barred from using cameras and cell phones in the courthouse during the Trump arraignment. That could be interesting. We know that a lot of the talk is about potential protests outside of the courthouse. Sometimes I'm curious how the media handles it. So I was watching some coverage this morning, and it was over 50,000 people could show. Well, that works out good when the media does that, because then if there's a small crowd, they'll say, boy, much lower than expected, right? But I don't know if there will be protests or not. I know the media at least claims there's been rumblings online of large protests. But the top judge for the U.S. District Court of the Southern District of Florida on Monday ruled that journalists covering former President Donald Trump's arraignment in Miami may not bring cell phones into the court. Now, the former president will be fingerprinted, but that's digital. It's not like in the old movies with the ink. He also will have a mugshot taken. They said that will not be released. Let's just have a fun game here in our heads. Do you think that's leaked? It instantly become arguably the most famous picture, at least temporarily. Will it be leaked? So many things during his administration were leaked. There's so many people that are really unhinged in some ways, for lack of a better term, for their hatred of the former president. So, I mean, let's face it, if we can have leaks coming now from the Supreme Court, which we never heard much more about that, did we? If there could be leaks from the Supreme Court, I don't think it'll take too long before that mugshot is somehow leaked to the public. That seems to be the way things are today. But yes, so there will be no cameras or cell phones in the courthouse. I assume that means we'll get one of those interesting paintings I don't know, maybe not. We got to take a short break. I'd love to have you weigh in on everything we'll be talking about this morning. What do you think about today's arraignment? I know we've had a lot of comments about it back and forth on both sides, and that's what I love about this show. I want to hear from all sides on this issue and many more. So we'll talk about all those topics, everything we can get to. We're going to move along very fast this morning, I can tell already. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back. We are back with Frankly Speaking. The music was loud, cranking it this morning. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. So we're talking about today's arraignment. Again, not going to focus too much time on it. We'll have plenty of time tomorrow to talk about it, as well as just in general, the coverage is going to be wall to wall. But Jonathan Turley, I like Jonathan Turley. He's from Fox News. And again, I would love to have you weigh in on this. He had this to say about it, that Trump could face a terminal sentence if they even prove one count. Again, Fox News legal analyst Jonathan Turley says the problem is he's got to run the table. He's 76 years old. All the government has to do is stick the landing on one count, and he could have a terminal sentence. You're talking about crimes that have a 10 or 20-year period as a maximum. Now, we have not heard their other side. Generally, the indictments are a lot stronger on the day they are issued than on the next day. So they may be able to knock down some of these issues, but some of the evidence is coming from his former counsel, and these are very damaging statements made against him. It may be hard to move those. Also weighing in on it, Marco Rubio, one of the things the media likes to do is how are Republicans going to defend this? And their defense is getting weak. You've seen these articles time and time again, but Marco Rubio, Senator Marco Rubio from Florida, said, you're bringing an indictment that basically alleges no real damage to national security. Not that it excuses it, but versus what we're going to see now. We're going to subject this country to a divisive spectacle. I agree with what he's saying. I'm concerned about the damage that this causes at the international front, what other countries see, our friends and our foes, what they see with the president being indicted twice. And Marco Rubio's point is it alleges no real damage to national security, but what about the national security that the court case like this and the constant media coverage and the signal it sends across the world, what kind of damage does that do to us as a country? I thought that was a fair point. It will be interesting to see some of the defense, some of what the people that obviously don't like Trump have to say. Tulsi Gabbard, we're going to run a little late on this break, but after that we're going to be talking to Michaela Christensen from the Waterfront Festival and Cardboard Boat Regatta that's happening this weekend. So we'll be talking to her in just a moment. Do you remember Tulsi Gabbard ran for president? Had, just attack after attack on her. She had a really good line against, it actually dropped her down, Harris during the debate. I was going to say vice president, but not, at the time she wasn't vice president, Kamala Harris yet. During that debate, really got a good one in. But anyway, I digress. And she did just recently, I think in October, leave the Democrat Party. So keep that in mind, what she has to say. But she was being interviewed about the indictment of the former president. And she said, those threats are coming from, let me take a step back because she said something more about that I don't want to get cut off here. Hold on. This is Tulsi Gabbard again. So she said that it's not coming from some far off foreign country. Those threats are coming from within, and they're coming, unfortunately, from people who do not share our love for this country. Who don't share our appreciation for God-given rights and freedoms that were enshrined in the Constitution. And so they are willing to sacrifice all of it in their ambitions and selfish hunger for power, she added. This is not something that should happen in the United States of America. It could be the final nail in the coffin of our democracy. So again, I'm trying to show you all the sides of what people are saying about this, the threats that this has caused to national security, but also to just in the PR sense of it all, what this makes us look like. it was interesting because Governor Newsom, and we're going to talk about that when we come back after our interview. Governor Newsom from California sat down with Sean Hannity on Fox News, and he talked about Trump, and he did have a couple nice things to say about Trump, surprisingly. But what is the end game for Gavin Newsom? So enough on the Trump arraignment that is today. There'll be wall-to-wall coverage, and we'll cover as much as we can tomorrow. But I just want to give you a couple little updates on that. When we come back, again, Michaela Christensen from the Waterfront Festival and Cardboard Boat Regatta. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back. Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. This is the M.A. Neal Financial Services section of our program, and I'm being joined by Michaela. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. So this is the 30th anniversary of the Waterfront Festival?
It is. It's a big year for us. We've been going since 1993. Wow. So, yeah.
Do you have anything special for the 30th?
So we're still doing the Cardboard Boat Regatta, which is the huge, takeaway from the Waterfront Festival. But we are going to be doing, we have more vendors than we've ever had before. We sold out of spaces. And we're doing some children activities that are going to be free, which is a little bit different than what we've done before.
Well, it is a family-friendly event. People should know that. And it is absolutely free.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
We got to hit on the important points there. Now, one of the things that we were talking about off the air, and I know that Zap and I have been talking about, is that you are in a need for more boats, correct?
We are, yes. Yep.
I mean, you still have a good amount.
Yeah, we are up to about 25. Okay. I think I got some more in over the weekend. Okay. So, a little bit more than that, but we were shooting for around 40. So, we will take boats up until Thursday would be the last time that I could take any.
How difficult would it be to make some of these boats look like they take a year to make?
Yeah, some people start a couple months early. Yeah. It's a lot of thinking going on because they've only can use cardboard, duct tape, and some glue, and that's really it beyond paint. So, yeah, they've got some thinking to do there, but it's really fun to watch.
So you can slap something together pretty quick with those things, right? So it's not too late. How should someone sign up if they still want to get a boat involved?
So they can email me directly. Our organization is Watkins Glen Promotions, so they can go right online to watkinsglen.com, and the registration form is there, or they can email us at events@watkinsglen.com.
Well, I know that everyone here at Big Fox is excited. This is their favorite time of year.
Yeah.
Because they're covering it. We're going to actually cover it, I think, about a week after the event. We'll have it on for everybody to see. You must look forward to this every year to be a part of the committee.
We do, yeah. So this is my third year doing this as a director. So the first year it was, just kind of a learning experience, but now it's a lot of fun. Yeah, we look forward to this every year. And the weather is going to be nice.
Oh, is it supposed to be nice? Oh, perfect, because you've had some iffy weather.
Last year was tough. Yeah, this year is supposed to be 75 and sunny, so like ideal temperature.
How did you get involved? Just attending? Just want to be a part of it?
Yeah, so I served on the board for this organization for a few years. Okay. And then I took over as director once the previous director retired.
So tell us some of the events, because it's not just the Cardboard Boat Regatta, it's the annual Waterfront Festival. The regatta is probably what everybody looks forward to the most, and that's that begins at what, 2 o'clock?
Yep, usually around 2 to 4 p.m. is the timeline for the Cardboard Boat Regatta. But the festival opens up at 11 a.m. Okay. We'll have food vendors, nonprofit vendors, craft vendors. Everything's going on that time. We'll have music going on. And then after the regatta closes, we do awards, and then we have Bad Bear playing from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Wow, there's something all day. I want to talk about the awards in just a little bit because there's so many different categories if people are thinking about entering a boat. But before that, how much preparation goes into this? When do you guys start planning again?
We start planning, I think our first meeting was actually in November last year, just kind of getting back together, thinking up some new ideas, and then we really get down to business in March time usually.
So this is the crunch time right
Yes,
now.
Yeah.
Do you think you're ready?
Oh, we're so ready, yeah.
You guys, it's old hat. How did, I hate asking this question because it brings back bad memories, but how did, yeah, that's a great start to a question. How did, when COVID hit, how did that affect what you guys planned? Because this was such a tradition.
Yeah, it was tough. We had to take 2 years off. This is the first event every year that we do. So in 2020, it was a definite no. And then in 2021, everything was still so uncertain. So we played it safe. But I think because of that, last year was just huge. It was great for everybody despite the weather. So I'm seeing more and more people interested in it this year too. So looking for a record turnout.
Do you have a favorite throughout your time there, a favorite boat? or you just find a new one each year?
Yeah, every year.
Kind of
I
puts you
mean,
on the
there's some are really funny, so it's just
Yeah.
fun to watch these poor guys paddle. So
So you're one of the people that want to see him sink. Yeah,
I
wanna-
enjoy the sinkings.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
But it is amazing to me. I know we talked about it earlier, but some of the time they put into it, they look nicer than my car.
Yeah, yeah.
And
They're
they're
spending hours after work doing this. There's a few. I mean, there's a couple of people that do. What am I trying to say? It's like it's a work building, like a team building thing
Oh,
at
right.
work. So they're spending hours after work doing this with their buddies, and they come out really nice.
Yeah, it's an
Some-
excuse to get all together and
Absolutely,
kind
yeah.
of build a boat.
Yep.
Do you see a lot of repeat customers, so to speak?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's at least 10 boats that participate year after year. Different names, different crews, but usually the same captain.
I'm a sucker when there's kids involved with the
Yeah.
boats because they want to actually jump in.
Yeah.
You can tell, but I
Yep.
love when they crash.
I know.
And it does feel weird that this is probably the only event like this where you actually do want to see people sink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's totally safe. We have lifeguards
Oh,
there.
yeah.
We have sheriffs there and everything else. So all these kids and teens and adults are wearing life jackets and stuff. But that's why it's even more fun when
Yeah.
they start to sink.
Yeah. And they know it.
Yeah,
you
they
it's
know
just-
what's going on.
Sometimes they're having a little fun with the sinking too. So you mentioned the categories. What are some of the categories if people decide to enter a boat?
Yeah, so we always have fastest categories for the different classes of ships. So there's people that just are single, they don't have any team, it's just them, so they have a fastest category. Then there's teens, there's kids. So beyond that, it's like the best sinking, the best theme.
Of course.
There's one for the most patriotic. So there's lots of
Oh.
fun stuff. Yeah.
And it is for all ages. We mentioned the kids enjoy
Absolutely.
it, but really anybody can make a boat.
Yeah. It's primarily adults. And then there's some kids that are added in and sprinkled there. And we have a Girl Scout troop and a Boy Scout troop in this year too.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
I like when there's people that take it really seriously, that they really want to be the fastest or get past it, because everybody does it so different. Some are just happy. It looks like an old refrigerator box and they're
Yep.
willing to sink. Then there's people that looks like they streamlined it.
Yeah. If you get there early, it's really fun to go around and see all the boats before they get in the water, because you can see the work that they put in up close and personal before it gets ruined.
And a lot of times you get before it gets ruined. Do you think people, speaking of ruined, can you reuse a boat year to year? Has anybody done
I
that?
don't know if anybody has. We have dumpsters that are on site because typically they're done
They
by
just
the
wanna
time they
be
get
able-
out. Yeah.
Because that would be very difficult to dry that out and not have it probably
Yeah.
rot, right? Right. So what's your favorite part of the event? The regatta?
Yeah.
Or
it's-
just the whole day?
Honestly, it's like the kickoff to summer. So
Yeah.
for me, it's just really nice to see everybody gathered around, having a good time the whole day. So yeah, the regatta is the highlight, but there's so much going on beyond that. So
Did you attend the event before you got involved?
yes,
Oh,
yeah,
so it's
I
like
did.
a yearly tradition.
Yep, I did volunteer a few times for it, and it's always been fun, and it's even more fun seeing all the behind the scenes that happens prior to that.
Now that you're on this program, are you going to do an interview with Maggie while they're there at Big Fox?
Oh, I don't know. I should.
We should.
Yeah,
we
we
should
should.
stop by.
Yeah.
I'll have to mention that to Maggie. So I did mention your favorite boat from the past. You change it every year. Is there like a theme or a top? Because I like the ones that are like based on TV programs.
Oh.
You know how every once in a while there'll be one that's like the Flintstones mobile. or
Yeah,
something like
I
that?
haven't seen any of those,
Yeah.
at least by the name, come in. There's a couple that are. I know that there's a Girl Scout troop coming in that's called Gimme Samoa Dat Boat, and like the Samoas, and
Yeah.
I thought that was fantastic. So there's some good names coming through.
You mentioned that sometimes it's just one person or a couple people. Do you
Yep.
know off the top of your head how many is the most people that have ever been on a boat?
I think last year we had almost 10.
Yeah.
And they have more people in it, the heavier it is. So it's fun to watch those.
So I know if no one's ever, I believe at this point everybody's seen pictures of it at least and seen the ads that we've been playing. But
Yeah.
what would you tell somebody tips if they decide that they want to enter a boat?
So if they want to enter a boat, I feel like they really need to plan it out first. Just start slapping cardboard together and hoping for the best.
Yeah.
But I think layering is key. Doing a layer of cardboard, then layer of duct tape, something to seal that water from coming in. That's usually the worst thing. As soon as it hits the water's coming in and they're done. So
How much duct tape do you think they go through in that area?
I don't know. Yeah,
You might have to plan ahead, right? Because I bet you
Yeah,
couldn't go
like
down to the
cases.
hardware store and get a roll of duct tape the day before.
No, and I'm sure there's different grades of duct tape involved too. So I know that some people have, they're trying to get around the duct tape and use something more efficient, obviously, but we're pretty stuck on that rule.
So do you have judges go around to make
We
sure?
do, yeah, we do have judges. The judges that will be judging the best theme, they're our friends from the Chamber of Commerce in Watkins Glen. So we'll also have some of our committee there measuring and checking everything over.
Without naming names, have you ever had to boot anybody?
No,
Okay.
no.
No one's cheated that bad?
Not that bad, no.
Okay. So keep that in mind. Don't be the
Yeah.
first one that gets booted if you're going to sign up. So again, before we go, what's the best way to sign up? A boat or just to find out more about the event?
Yeah, they can also just call us too. I forgot to mention that. So our number's 607-535-3003. But again, we have a Facebook group and we have our website, watkinsglen.com. I answer all of those. So
When do
whatever.
people start reaching out to you? Because I know a lot of them are so excited to get involved and to sign up. So do you pretty much when this year's is over, you start getting calls?
Yeah, so this year we did send a shout out to all of our previous boat entries, and the first entry we got was like in January. And I was so excited.
Yeah.
But then it was slow. You know, people need time to figure out if they're going to be able to do it.
Sure.
So it's not unexpected that it's very last minute for some people.
Seeing that it's the 30th anniversary, do you have people coming back from the first time?
Not that I know, not that
Maybe
far
not
back.
a boat, but maybe attending.
Yeah,
maybe.
yep, definitely.
Well, now, if someone hasn't been to the Cardboard Boat Regatta, just before we go, what would you tell them? What should they know about the event?
Yeah, so the event starts at 11. The main highlight is going to be at 2 o'clock. I would suggest getting there around noon if you can.
Okay.
Bring your kids, bring your family, and stay the whole length because we're going to have a great band at 5 o'clock too to kind of conclude the event. So it's just something that's meant to be fun all day for everybody.
It's
Yeah.
a fun day and a family event. So thank you so much for being on the program.
Yeah,
Good
thank you.
luck.
Thank
This is
you.
crunch time. So
Yep.
best of luck. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. We are back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. I'm your host, Frank Acom. There is all the information about this weekend's festivities. Thank you again to Michaela Christensen for being our guest on the program. So it's not too late. I know the ad, if you notice, it says it's not too late to enter. Originally it was Monday. They do have a couple openings, as you heard during our interview. So if you'd like to register, that's probably the best way to do it. Go to that website and there's a registration form and the like. So there you go. There's all your information. Before we get into some of the national stories of the day, and as always, you can, of course, contact me and weigh in on the arraignment. You can weigh in state issues, anything you'd like, suggestions for upcoming interviews, whatever you'd like. But before that, I wanted to put let's take there we go. I thought that was a great picture that Assemblyman Phil Palmisano sent. You see Senator Tom O'Mara's there. They, yesterday, paid tribute to the Corning Painted Post state champions. There's quite a long list of champions, too. The joint statement by Senator O'Mara and Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. There's a little bit lengthier than this, but it's an opportunity to recognize and honor the dedication, excellence, hard work, and success of the remarkable student athletes who help our school community stand out. They represent inspiring stories and stand as a source of enormous pride to the entire Corning Painted Post School District, as well as to their families and friends, the community at large, and our entire region. Here's who they recognize. Jack Grigowski, the 2022 state champion in the 3,200 meter run. The varsity boys 3,200 meter relay team that won in 2022 as well. Angelina McCain, who captured both the 50-yard freestyle and 100-yard butterfly titles in the 2022 girls swimming and diving championship. The varsity boys cross country team that won the 2022 boys class A cross country championship, and Gacy Ruffin, who was the 600-meter champion at the 2023 Indoor Track and Field Championship in March. So congratulations to all of them. That's a nice way to recognize them, and that's a great picture. So I want to put that up on the screen for just a moment before we get back into the heavy stuff. Every once in a while, it's nice to take a little break and talk about nice stories. Speaking of Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, he's going to be in on the program on Friday. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about the end of the session that we've been discussing a lot, and I'm sure the Assemblyman has a lot of opinions on. I mentioned one yesterday with the Clean Slate Act, but we'll talk about that more in depth with him. Speaking of New York State issues, before we get into Gavin Newsom and before we get into Chris Christie, there's a very good piece by Tim Hofer at the New York Post, and I actually can put it up on the screen there for you. So New York burns $9 billion hole in our pocket. That means Albany. And I know, speaking of Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, he fought against this, and this is the problem when you have a supermajority in Albany. New data about the state's financial pictures shows that they don't really think a lot about the future in Albany. A new budget projection shows the state expects expenses to outpace revenues by $9 billion beginning next April. The gap will swell to $13 billion the year after. Yes, I'm saying it with a B. $13 billion. To put those numbers in context, New York's budget this year, excluding federal aid and borrowing, is $125 billion, about $23 billion more than it was before the pandemic, notwithstanding some Albany accounting gimmicks. You've seen that in the past. Local and state lawmakers appear to have been emboldened by last year's unexpectedly high tax receipts, which give rise to assumptions that future receipts would remain strong. They do that so often in Albany. Well, if it was this year, it's got to be next. And of course, that's not the case. Those forecasts have been pared significantly in recent weeks after state tax receipts for April came in far below expectations. So a couple things that Tim Hofer says that could help us, at least a start in New York. But they're two sacred cows, really. Legislators' top focus should be on New York's costliest in the nation, public schools, which spent over $26,000 per student during the 2020-2021 school year, or 85% more than the national average. 85% more. Well, I know. I'm sure you feel it in your taxes when they come. But yet again, the school budgets always pass. Albany's aid, well, not always. Addison didn't pass theirs, but Albany's aid for school district exploded from $19 billion in 2011 and 2012 to $34 billion set to go out next year. And the problem with that is the education system is not improving. Students are getting less, but it's costing us more. And while the teachers' unions and others claim if you make cuts, it would harm children. You remember the old days where it was vote yes for the kids on budget. New York spent the spent the last generation proving that increasing spending doesn't create better results. And then the other major avenue he believes that we should look at is Medicaid. Along with school aid, it makes up about half the state budget, pardon me, and New York's Medicaid spending is poised to surge 13% this year, following a successful pressure campaign by hospitals and healthcare unions. But the key to that success, a cap that limited spending growth to healthcare costs, inflation, has been poked full of holes in recent years, because there was a time when it was better, we'll just put it that way. Returning to the policies and practices that tamed Medicaid a decade ago will go a long way towards stabilizing the state's fiscal footing. So you can read that whole piece. It's by Tim Hofer. It's at the New York Post, and he's the president and CEO of the Empire Center for Public Policy in Albany. All right, when we come back, a few things here about the presidential race. If you'd like to weigh in on, the presidential race or about the former president's arraignment today, former President Donald Trump, there is the best way to reach me. You can also just reach out, make suggestions, especially if you have public service announcements for your charitable organizations. We love to hear from you here on Frankly Speaking. So stay with us. We're going to take another short break. This is Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back. Thank you for joining me here on Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we are broadcasting live from the Hasselson studio. So the Governor Gavin Newsom scenario kind of fascinates me. He did an interview, I would say surprisingly enough, with Sean Hannity, and he talked about a lot of different things. And they had some back and forth. But what is, again, I use the term endgame here. There was talks at one point because of, President Biden's age, some questions about his health. Could he be replaced on the top of the ticket? And maybe that's why Robert F. Kennedy Jr. got in. Maybe that's why Marianne Williamson came in. By the way, they are going after Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s wife. Now, the New York Times, New York Times targeting her. She's an actress. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her. Cheryl Hines. She was on Curb Your Enthusiasm. They said it's dangerous because she's normalizing his dangerous ideas. They don't like that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is at 20% right out of the gate. There's definitely some concern there. But anyway, we're talking about Governor Newsom here for a moment. So they asked him about the Trump indictment, and he actually had a few things kind of nice to say about the former president. When asked about the trial in Miami, he said he was saddened. It was sad, and I say that as an American. And I will give Governor Newsom credit here, because I think the people that are giddy over this or are in a way celebrating this aren't looking towards the future. What this can mean, for other former presidents, but also just the message or the picture it sends throughout the world. But he said he was weighing in on his time with Trump during COVID, and he said, "I didn't have a closed fist. I had an open hand. We actually had an incredible relationship during COVID. He was incredible," meaning former President Trump. "He played no politics during COVID with California, none whatsoever. It's a fact." Now, I bring this up because, again, there's speculation about whether or not he will run. He said, "I'm not answering," when Sean Hannity asked. I see what you're doing with that. No, I'm not answering. He did weigh in on the president's health. He said, "I have conversations with him all the time. Yes, I do believe he's sharp enough to be president. I'm dead serious about that." Well, it is going to be interesting because, listen, Newsom would love to run this time. Maybe he's just thinking about next time as well. You can't be sure. But it does seem to do Hannity's program is a little bit interesting to me. It piques my interest at a time when there has been a lot of calls for maybe a different candidate out there. But the problem is Democrats don't want Kamala Harris, fearing that she may not win that nod, but they can't get rid of her either. So that's going to be something to watch somewhat closely. Now, Chris Christie is who we were supposed to be talking about when it came to the presidential race, because he spoke to CNN yesterday during a town hall. Okay, I have a second. And we have a couple takeaways from that. I don't want to spend too much time on it. I think the media is giving him way too much coverage for a candidate polling at 1%, though I do say it's fair that CNN did a town hall, because they did with Nikki Haley. They have with others as well. But he, of course, went on the attack against the former president. To me, Christie seems like someone that's very politically expedient, whichever way the polls will take him. Very moderate. That even came up in the conversations. But he said that he feels that Trump's reaction to losing the election was a child's reaction. I beg you to think about this. Don't allow the showmanship to obscure the facts. The facts are he lost to Joe Biden, and he lost to Joe Biden, in my opinion, because he lost independent voters. Then he went on to say, think twice, not just about Trump, but about the imitators too, referencing his opponents like Ron DeSantis. He said, "I'm not imitating anybody. This is an original, everybody." He slammed Trump and other candidates over the reaction to the indictment. Whether you like Donald Trump or you don't like Donald Trump, this conduct is inexcusable. Again, and I don't want to do what so many others have been doing, but I do have to highlight, why is it that former presidents, and even we saw with Mike Pence, vice president, have this type of documents, these type of sensitive documents, and that's okay with President Biden having them in his garage, and all the stories. So I'm confused why sometimes Chris Christie or someone like that won't go out of their way to highlight that as well, because I do think that's a fair point to bring up. He made the case for himself, not just going after Trump. Talking about New Jersey and his time as governor there. He talked about some of the major issues like gun control and abortion. He believes abortion access should be decided by the states. Christie said he'd raise retirement age and cut Social Security. Do you want your money back at the cost of the person who won't be able to eat? At the cost of the person who won't be able to pay for shelter, he said. You don't change the retirement age for someone my age. I'm 60. I'm within eyeshot of that. So you don't change it for them. But you could do a lot of good by changing it for people at a younger age. You can sit down with them with actuaries if you've got 20 or 30 years to plan for it, that should be enough to get yourself ready. Oof, that could be a tough sell. He did go after China. I will give Christie credit. He did have a good section on China where he talked about the Ukraine war as a proxy war with China. He said that while U.S. involvement in the war is unpleasant, the alternative is for Chinese to take over. The Russians, the Iranians, and the North Koreans, a bad foursome, Chris Christie said. For your children and my grandchildren, are they going to live in a world where China is setting the tone for this world? A communist dictatorship where they tell you how many children you can have, where they tell you what you can think, what you can see, and what you can hear. I don't want the kind of world for our kids, and I don't want it for my grandkids. So this is something we've been talking about, the China, and there's actually quite a few stories about that this morning that I don't know if we'll be able to get to about China. So that's just a really, really quick look at the town hall yesterday on CNN with Chris Christie. I think we probably spent enough time on it, though I'm going to give you one opinion piece on it when we come back, but we've got to take a short break. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back. We are back, Frankly Speaking, here on WYDC TV Big Fox. We received a comment from a viewer, and I will say that it transcribes a voicemail if you call in, and I'm going to put that up while I discuss what they had to say. So it's a little bit broken up here, but I understand the gist of the message, and I appreciate it. And I'm sorry that if you get upset with some of the topics, I understand it. It does make your blood boil, and it is... sometimes it can be pretty outrageous. Specifically, we're referencing the New York State budget. Yes, I do believe, and I would open this up, and there's my contact information. I would open it up to any school board members that want to weigh in on this. Don't just think it's, politicians at the state level or the local level. I would love to have school board members on, love to have the conversation. So if you would like to be on the program, because there is something that it's something we have to look at. When we continue to pass these budgets and we continue to talk about the spending, it's a conversation that is necessary. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole substance of the voicemail. I did listen to it, and I appreciate it. But you can always contact me, and I will take that seriously. I will try to get school board members, superintendents, people like that on the program. So again, if someone would like to reach out, I would love to hear from you. There's our contact information. Okay, we do have to take another short break. I know we're moving fast this morning. We've covered so much. Again, I've got to thank Michaela Christensen for being our guest on the program. The 30th Annual Waterfront Festival and Cardboard Boat Regatta starts this Saturday at 11, and it runs till 8. And the Cardboard Boat Regatta begins at 2. It's not too late to register that boat. We'll tell you a little bit more about that later on. And, of course, Big Fox will be there. So let's take that break, and then we'll be back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us. You are watching Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, I'm your host, Frank Acom. You have to wonder why the media likes Chris Christie so much. They didn't, if you remember the Bridgegate scandal, which... big pet peeve of mine is just throwing gate after anything to make it a scandal. But they did not like him. They liked him when he hugged Obama, of course, really helping Obama defeat Mitt Romney. But that's neither here nor there. Not a big fan. Now they kind of are. He's very much that wishy-washy back and forth. But why are they promoting him so much? I mean, I guess you could make the argument, why am I talking about him so much? But I'm looking at it from the standpoint of what the media is doing with him. They love the fact that he's attacking Trump, and he knows that. But then you've got, and in full disclosure, S.E. Cupp. She went to Ithaca College. We had her on my radio program way back early in her career. So I just, full disclaimer there. But the headline on CNN, or one of the lines on CNN was, Chris Christie's the real thing, or something like that. And this is the actual title of it. Chris Christie goes where his rivals won't. And why does the media promote him so much? Well, I think there's a couple of reasons. He attacks Trump, which they like, and they know that if he were to get the nomination, most likely doesn't stand a chance. He's too moderate. He does not have the winning appeal that he needs. As a result, many of the media have been presuming, his project in this circle, where he's not polling very high thus far, that it's a kamikaze mission. I don't know. Is that really what they've been promoting? Maybe. I agreed, said S.E. Cupp, believing that Christie wasn't in it to win it, but to stop Trump. But in this town hall, he did things that traditional candidates do if they actually want to win elections. I'd hope so. He just doesn't go up there and, well, anyway. He drew contrast, not only between him and Trump, but between himself and the other Republican candidates. So he did the very basic thing you're supposed to do, and now she believes he's a viable candidate. Doomed to failure or not, Christie seems to understand the point of all this. To win the White House, elevate conservative ideas, he's a moderate. I would not say it's not conservative ideas. And solve actual problems for Americans. It isn't to own the left or score cheap points or push this ugly culture war or suck up to a guy facing criminal indictment. Whether Christie can win this way remains to be seen. Doesn't. But he's at 1% SE Cup. But SE Cup has a really dislike for the former President Trump. She didn't always. But it at least looks, as though he wants to, meaning Christie, which is more than I can say for some of his competitors. All right. We got to take a short break, and then we're going to wrap up things quickly. So stay with us. This is, Frankly Speaking, on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back. All right, we got to move fast here on Frankly Speaking as we wrap things up for today's edition. They asked the question after Chris Licht, is that how you say it? L-I-C-H-T, the guy from CNN. After he was gone, CNN needs a new leader, says the piece from Jeremy Barr. Now, the town hall, really the Trump town hall is what did him in. But they've been having the town halls. That's what we mentioned earlier with Chris Christie. But CNN needs a new leader. Will anyone want the job? Good time to put up my contact information. Sure, I'll do it. I'll give it a shot. Let's turn that station around. No, they've become their own worst enemies in this. And it was interesting that no matter how bad Chris Licht did, it was really that broadcasting of the Trump town hall that did him in. But CNN, and it's interesting they allow this. They're going back and forth on each other. I mean, pretty much the whole staff saying, I think it was Anderson Cooper who said, I don't think you should ever have to watch this network again after the Trump town hall. Well, now you have a CNN legal analyst appalled by how drawn out Hunter Biden probe is. This is preposterous, he said. This is senior legal analyst Ellie Honig. This has been pending, according to our reporting at CNN, since 2018, 5 years. This is on Hunter Biden and the investigation into the first son. We don't have time to get into all the specifics, but Honig, a former Manhattan assistant U.S. attorney, said, by the way, this investigation is not the laptop. This investigation is a tax issue. Did Hunter Biden declare his income? And a sort of obscure gun law. Did he possess a gun while he was addicted to drugs, which you're not allowed to do under federal law? Did he lie about that? But 5 years? I mean, that's a 5-week investigation. And this spans the Trump administration and the Biden administration. Someone's got to make a call on this case. I don't know what is going on. It's beyond anything I've seen before. I know. We've talked about it on this program numerous times. Imagine if you were going through similar things, if you had done similar things. Do you think it would take this long? I think we all know the answer on that. Well, that is it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you again to Michaela Christensen for being our guest on the program. There's all the information you need to know about the 30th Annual Waterfront Festival and Cardboard Boat Regatta. It is not too late to register a boat. So go online today and have a little fun this weekend. The fun begins at 11 a.m. and the Cardboard Boat Regatta begins at 2. So you still have plenty of time to make something that looks like a cardboard boat. So thank you again to her for being on the program. As I said, Assemblyman Phil Palmisano will be our guest on Friday. I just spoke with him, confirmed that. So have a great day, everyone. We will be back with Frankly Speaking starting tomorrow morning right at 7 o'clock right here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm Frank Acom, and we will talk to you tomorrow morning. I look forward to it. Hi, I'm Frank Acom. Thanks for checking out our YouTube page. We'll be uploading each edition of Frankly Speaking 1 week after the original air date. So, let me remind you to watch the live version of Frankly Speaking weekday mornings starting at 7, only on WYDC TV Big Fox.